Hitler had help. Now, who helped him? My parents were in the Holocaust. My mom was on the train to Treblinka when she was pushed out by her mother from the little window. And I always thought it was my business to answer the questions of how it happened. Somebody else discussed what happened. How did it happen? The enormity of the Holocaust, the dimension of the Holocaust, was determined by American corporations. Now, where did Hitler get this idea of an international Jewish conspiracy that controlled the media, that controlled the banks, that controlled the military, that controlled the governments, that worked with capitalism, with communism, with Zionism? Most people know this today, that Henry Ford was the #1 anti-Semite in the United States after World War I. Ford Motor Company was involved in sponsoring the concept of the international Jewish conspiracy. And after World War I, a typescript called the Protocols of the Elders of Zion was shown to him by Tsarist agents, and he bought it hook, line, and sinker. He quit his job. He quit his job as the president of Ford Motor Company. He bought a publication called the Dearborn Independent, and he used his mass production techniques to take pamphleting and a typescript and a whisper and a rumor and produce an international publishing phenomenon. And it went all over Germany. And it came to the attention, we're talking about 1919, we're talking about 1920, it came to the attention of Adolf Hitler, and he said, Henry Ford is my hero. And even when it came time for Henry Ford to be sued for libeling the Jews, Adolf Hitler offered to send his own shock troops to Chicago. Hundreds of thousands of copies of the Protocols of the Elders of Zion in German were circulated throughout Germany by the carload, often with Hitler and Ford pictured on the cover. Where did Adolf Hitler get the idea that Jews were subhuman? It mattered what was in the blood. Adolf Hitler wanted a master race. Where did he get these ideas of a master race? Race und Blut. Race and blood. Race and blood did not come from Germany. Race and blood came from the president of Stanford University. It was American eugenics. At the turn of the 20th century, the Carnegie Institution, which was a steel fortune, the Rockefeller Foundation, which was an oil fortune, and the Harriman Railroad estate, which was a railroad fortune, combined to take Mendel's principles of heredity and combine them into social engineering. They believed that human beings could be bred the way you breed wheat, peas, horses, pigs. And how do you do that? You eliminate the unwanted stock and you propagate the wanted stock. Who was behind this? Well, the Agriculture Department of the United States, because they felt that we could grow people the way we grow corn. Method: forced surgical sterilization, marriage prohibition, marriage voiding, concentration camps, and public gas chambers. They even entered in 1908 legislation into the Ohio State Legislature, among many other places, to make it legal for a doctor to write a prescription that this man should be put to death. And if anyone bothered to read and translate the full copy and text of Mein Kampf and study those particular passages, you will see that he specifically talks about the American legislation for eugenics and how he would pattern his new Reich society after the American model. So Rockefeller funded these Nazi doctors, including the #1 Nazi doctor. And the #1 Nazi doctor was a guy called Otmar Verschuur. Now, Verschuur, who was funded by Rockefeller, and it was only one of many, had an assistant, and that assistant's name was Mengele. Rockefeller Foundation knew what kind of a monster it was, because every week Mengele was filing important clinical reports, important clinical diagnosis, autopsies, and they were motorcycled to his Rockefeller Fellowed Otmar Verschuur. Who took Hitler off the horse and motorized the Third Reich? GM. It was not Ford. It was General Motors. It was General Motors from Detroit. And so General Motors was stationing the spare parts and the Blitz trucks along the Polish border in the 2 weeks before September 1st, 1939. And then you may ask, well, what kind of a Holocaust would it have been if Hitler didn't get all the names? And that's where IBM comes in. IBM, the solutions company. They went to Hitler and they said, we're the solutions company. There's no solution we won't give you. IBM was the master of information technology. The people listening to my voice today, the young people, your grandkids, they think information age was born in Silicon Valley. It was born in Berlin in 1933. What is the information age? Who can define it? I will define it for you. It is the individualization of statistics. The confiscation of their assets. All the banks, all the financial institutions on IBM punch cards. And even the extermination of the Jews. The Auschwitz tattoo, an IBM number. They were in every concentration camp. They serviced the machines on site every 2 weeks. The machines were never rented. The machines were never sold. They were only leased. The cards could only use the IBM cards, and if anybody tried to make their own, IBM would actually sue them for copyright infringement.